Welcome back to our afternoon keynote session today on day 2 of the Monetize the Mic virtual conference. We are talking today about how to get joint venture partnerships with podcast hosts. And I'm going to introduce our guest speaker, Mark Willis. He is a man on a mission to help you think differently about your money, your economy, and your future. After graduating with 6 figures of student loan debt and discovering a way to turn his debt into real wealth as he watched everybody lose their retirement savings and home equity in 2008, he knew that he needed to find a more predictable way to meet his financial objectives and those of his clients. Mark is a certified financial planner, a 3-time #1 best-selling author, the owner of Lake Growth Financial Services, a financial firm in Chicago, Illinois, and co-host of the Not Your Average Financial podcast. Over the years, he has helped hundreds of his clients take back control of their financial future and build their businesses with proven, tax-efficient financial solutions unknown to most financial gurus. He has become known as the Not Your Average Financial Planner. Please welcome Mark Willis. Hi, Mark.
Hey, Jessica. What an introduction. I can tell you've done a few of those over the years and you've got a great skill there. So glad to be with you.
Thank you so much. So Mark has been working with Interview Connections for several years and is just a shining student of everything that we teach around relationships, consistency, committing, trusting the process, and his results really show it. So Mark, first I want you to tell everyone where you were at in your business when you first started podcast guesting.
That takes us back. And I should mention, I'm so glad to be even here. We had a severe thunderstorm kick us off. All the power went out. Candles were lit and everything here. So we'll see how this goes. I can't wait.
I know. I was planning. I was like writing backup notes. I'm like, I might have to go on stage here. So we're very grateful that you're here.
For the time being, as we all know, we only have this moment. So we shall see how this goes. But I do have a backup if we have to. So back in the day, you might know the exact day when I started working with you guys. I know it's been several years, 2017, 2018, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
The stage of life at that time was I knew podcasting was absolutely ramping up. I knew that there was an important time, and I guess I'll tell a quick story before I started working with you. There was something, it wasn't Snowmageddon, but it was something like that that had hit us. Oh, it was one of those polar vortexes that had hit Chicago. And we had scheduled a presentation at a library to do some speaking and a presentation to some neighbors and just to have a conversation about retirement planning for folks at a library. And we had spent several $1,000s for this one event to come out to the library and speak to strangers, and it was a one-off event on a Tuesday night, whatever. And of course, Santa just drops his bomb right on Chicagoland from the polar vortex. And we didn't get to go out there. I had even bought a bunch of ice scrapers and everything for anyone who actually showed up to that thing to hand out as freebies, but it did not work. And I knew that it was a huge waste of money. And so what we decided at that point was to start doing something that would last and something that didn't require me schlepping out to the burbs, to do a one-off event that would just evaporate into the ether. And so I started looking for any group of people who would be skilled enough to help me know how to get onto podcasts because I was personally a fan of podcasts. And thought of them as just an absolute incredible strategy to get into the hearts and minds of people and share some of our not so average financial strategies.
And did you have your own podcast at that time? What came first, guesting or hosting?
Hosting. I had started that previous fall, and so that was when I guess it was 2017. I started the podcast, and somewhere around that winter was our wonderful polar vortex event. And so right after that, we started looking into podcast guesting as a kind of a reverse strategy. I just thought of the hosting piece as a chance to educate our existing clients and to possibly attract a few more. But the guesting piece was a new idea that was given to me by a mentor of mine.
Oh, amazing. Yeah. And that's the thing about podcasting is that that is your platform to communicate with your audience. But to grow your audience and to get people listening to your podcast, you do need to go in front of other people's audiences. And that's where podcast guesting comes in. So Mark, you mentioned that you were schlepping it out to libraries in the suburbs in the middle of snowstorms, paying thousands of dollars for these one-off events. So the goal with podcast guesting was to really have something that was a little easier. You don't have to leave your house, something that would live on. What were some of your other goals? Did you come into this thinking, I want to get this number of clients? Like, what were your expectations or goals that you had for the strategy?
Well, someone once told me that there's always going to be problems in life and in business, and you just have to decide if you want small problems or if you want big problems. And so my problem before meeting up with you guys was I just had the problem of an empty calendar. I had a few clients that I would be able to, a lot of referrals and a lot of, I'd bought some, different lead sources and that sort of thing. That's always fine. But I wanted something that would generate authority and lasting value for months, years to come. And so I guess what I was looking for was something that would provide, I guess, an amplifier to our message. We felt like we had at least started to refine a unique message for the marketplace. We feel like we have some fairly unique strategies that are, as you said, not typically known to stock jockeys, financial gurus, accountants, and that work and are time tested. So we knew we had the message. We just needed to get on the right platform. Our biggest problem was not really anything more than obscurity. We needed to not be obscure if we were going to make an impact in the world. And you guys absolutely have delivered on that and helping us get the message out there.
Yeah. And I love that you're talking about obscurity and building authority. That's what we were speaking about with Anna in our morning session about how you have to build authority. If people don't know who you are and they don't know, you could provide a great service and get some referrals, right? You were getting referrals, but if you are not an authority in your space, you're not going to get people coming to you saying, I want to work with you, right? So what were your expectations? Did you think, when you made that first investment and signed up with Interview Connections, did you think like, oh, this is definitely going to work? Or were you kind of like, let's see what happens? What were your expectations?
I had really, I think, just minimal unknown expectations. I knew that, the 80-20 rule probably applied, that there was probably going to be 20% of the shows that would deliver 80% of the results. And I'd be spinning my wheels on the other 80%. But I knew that I never wanted to just, again, I didn't want to pour, again, tens of thousands over the course of a year of dollars into one-off events that may or may not deliver. You might have one or two people sitting in the room after spending thousands of dollars to do direct mail or whatever. And I just didn't, that wasn't me. That wasn't my personality. And, I'm a family man and wanted to be able to be home with the kids and everything like that. And so having less commuting time to all these empty, libraries was sort of, it just made sense as one of my values in my business and in my life is to have sanity. And I think, that works on a financial level and it works on a business level and a family level. And you guys have helped provide some sanity for our business and for the outbound or inbound marketing projects that you guys help us accomplish.
I love that you talk about, I feel like sanity is building off of, we talked a lot about mindset yesterday and energy, right? And so how has your mindset evolved as you've done, as you've seen success with a strategy that lets you be home with your family and not spending thousands on events? Like, how has that impacted your entrepreneurial mindset?
Well, now instead of having to just hope and pray for someone to call us, or hope and pray that a lead source will work out, you pay all this money for Facebook ads or whatever. Not that there's anything wrong with that strategy too, but I have just found a great relief in I call it the hydraulic cycle of lead generation. Because, if you think about it, you can have a stream, a tap water of water coming out of your tap that may or may not last. Someone could turn that tap off. The spigot could be turned off on you. And all of a sudden your conversations, your opportunities for clients goes away. But a hydraulic cycle, to go back to biology in sixth grade, it's where the storms rain down on the mountain. The water trickles down into rivers and floods into pools and then goes back to the ocean and then dries up and goes back up to the clouds again. It's this wonderful kind of repeating self-generating cycle. And that's sort of what takes us from podcast guesting to joint ventures. Because if we just leave it at a podcast, that'll be an incredible asset, a piece of content that will last a week, a month, maybe sometimes a year. I just had someone reach out to me from 2 years ago when I was on a show 2 years ago.
Amazing.
So it's amazing how these sort of things are just out there forever, just working while we sleep. But I wanted something that would even expand to become self-generating and would feed my calendar and my advisors. We have a number of advisors that are working with us now as well. I wanted something that would be, self-generating and reproducing, sort of like that old rain cycle that we all learned about in biology class.
Yeah, I certainly don't remember that lesson of biology class, but I'm glad that you refreshed my memory. I love that. So I want to ask you, how has your messaging and your target audience evolved? Like when you first started going out on podcasts, did you have one target audience, and has it evolved over time? And your messaging, like what are you being interviewed about? Has that evolved over time?
Well, the key people that we find are just absolutely thrilled to work with us are oftentimes business owners and small business owners, specifically real estate investors, people who are sort of aware that the 401k is not all it's cracked up to be. I was doing some research recently, and I found out that the 401k and the IRA too, they are so young, they're not even old enough to retire yet. That's how young the 401k is. So young, it's not even old enough to retire yet. And yet it's this grand experiment that we all go through as a country to think that was, somehow created by God on the sixth day of creation or something. It's just not. So as far as the people that find us to be most valuable, we're looking for people who want some predictability, some sort of access to cash for use for their business or for their family life, people who are on the verge of just wanting some more control and predictability and sanity, quite honestly. And honestly, the people who are listening to podcasts in general, at least the statistics I read, seem to say that they are, most of us are mostly people who are looking to better our future. They're not just they're not just tennis balls floating down the gutter of life, right? They're wanting to move upstream with their life and their business. So, for the sake of us working together, I think having those conversations in the earbuds of the people we would love to talk to, I just can't think of a better way to get the message out. I mean, really, it's a truly tremendous, we live in the future that we can even do this.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to talk about your results. I want to go through whatever stats and data you can give us around like what results you've created. And then we're going to get into talking about the joint ventures with hosts. So tell us about what are the results you've seen.
Well, great question. And, I don't know if these are going to be complete, but I can give you some concept for like year to date. I think if you'll give me a second, I'm going to look up the latest info here. My team, we meet every week and we have a review of how we're doing on certain key metrics in the business. And each of us has sort of 3 or 4 numbers that we bring to the meeting to give us some idea of how we're doing. Okay. So one thing that we've been able to be on 35 podcasts this year so far. And so our goal is to hit at least 75 by the end of the year. And I think we're on track for that. As a result of that, we've had over 600 people join our membership site, which is sort of like off of Facebook. And these are clients of ours. And it's a kind of a space where I'm able to sort of add tiny morsels of value every single day. That's a whole nother marketing strategy, by the way, we could talk about. As a result of the shows, I've had 449 households reach out to us this year. Okay. So that's 449 households, families, individuals that have reached out to us this year. And, I think the best I can say here is that it's so productive for us that I had to end up hiring 2 additional staff. We're in the middle of doing that right now. And we've got 6 different advisors that are helping manage all of these incoming families and households. My calendar is so booked that I'm looking at middle September for my first openings on appointments now. So Jessica, like I said, I used to have small problems. Now I've got big problems, and it's because of you guys. So thank you.
That's incredible. Oh my goodness. I can speak to that because I reached out to Mark and I said, Mark, I want you to be my keynote. And he goes, well, I've got noon on Wednesday. And I was like, I'll take it. That was like his only opening. So he is a busy man because he's getting so many leads. That's so amazing. Okay. So let's talk about converting these, families. What's your call to action? So you give a great interview. What are you saying at the end when the host asks, where can listeners connect with you?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I've learned that one place is better than showing them all of your social media handles and, the 10 different phone numbers you might have. So I'm not the best at this. I think I could get better, but right now we have a landing page for particular markets. So like the real estate groups and the business owner groups and the crypto groups that we speak to, they all have a specific landing page that they might go to. And that's going to speak to them specifically, give them some ways in which they can kind of get into our orbit to start dating us first. And then if they'd like, of course, to hop on one of our calendars as well. And so we have a specific landing page for each kind of grouping of shows that we go on.
I love that you mentioned that, you have different target audiences. This is a question we get sometimes of clients that speak to different markets and financial planners. We also have clients that are real estate coaches that, will create different one sheets. So if we pitch you to an e-commerce podcast, the questions and the topics can be relevant to that audience. Just like when you're sending them to a landing page, something that speaks right. Like when people feel like, oh, they're talking right to me, they're more likely to convert. So I love that you have those different landing pages. And I'm guessing that came over time, right? Like you didn't sign up with us and you were like, I've got 5 landing pages and everything.
Yeah. Well, right? One thing that you really helped me do, Jessica, we had a one-on-one talk a few years ago, I think, and you listened to a few of my own episodes and you listened to one of the shows that I was a guest on, and you gave me some good constructive feedback on how to make that call to action very specific and where I could measure how it did. And so forth. And I think that's just, I don't know if you talk about that much or even if you offer that anymore, Jessica, but that was very valuable at the time.
Yes. Thank you so much for bringing that up. I remember that call. And it was so great because you were already doing so well. And this is something that we do for our clients. Now we have a whole client success team that does it. But yeah, we listen and provide specific feedback on how to improve your call to action so that if you are driving people to a page where they can schedule a call, you're not just like, oh, come to do a sales call with me, because you want, like, unless they're really ready to buy, you have to really make it valuable. And we actually have you as one of our examples in our closing keynote today. So guys, come back in a couple hours. We'll show you that example. But yeah, you offer a free book with it. So it's really valuable and it's working, right? It's converting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. It's been, I will be very clear, I think some shows you go on the show and you hope for the best and then it's crickets. Mm-hmm. And then again, some shows it's the 80-20 rule as we've talked about, but hold on, be patient. It is a lot like most things in life. There's going to be some challenges and some question marks but given it the strategy's time that it needs, it's like an airplane. It gets more efficient. It gets better over every mile you fly.
It's so true. When someone starts podcast guesting and tries to evaluate if it's working in a few months, it's like you've barely even, that's like training for a marathon. And after the first few days, you're like, I'm not fast enough. Well, you're going to get faster if you keep running, right? You're going to get better. Your results are going to improve. And I love that you said the 80-20 rule. That definitely applies because it's important not to micromanage the results of each individual show. And that is a pitfall that I see some entrepreneurs fall in. They're like, oh, great, I'm going to test and do a different landing page for every single podcast. And that'll give you data, but I think that it's more likely to have you fall in this trap where you're like, well, I never want to be on a show like that, or that show wasn't working. It's like some shows are not a love connection. Mm-hmm. And then some shows go viral, right?
That's right. Yeah. And you do learn the etiquettes and the norms of podcast hosts. You learn that sometimes the host is just reading your list of questions to you and you have to kind of carry the energy for the episode. So you do get better over time. It's like anything worth doing, I guess. You just keep working at it.
Yeah. So let's talk about joint ventures with hosts. We talked a lot about in our afternoon keynote yesterday with Dan Mangana. He talked all about relationships and collaboration. So I want to build on that because that is really the core foundation of podcast guesting is relationships. And so talk a little bit about your strategy of joint venturing with hosts.
Well, Jessica, I think the last time we spoke, you and I, on a podcast, I think that was on, I brought up the fact that I felt like you guys are the ones that introduce us to the best people at the party. And I still think that, because, if I'm introduced at a party by a wonderful person, then I have a good shot at just having a good friendship and a good time with that person. And I've generally started to see, as we're, about the same age, I guess, that being an adult is really about playing in a sandbox. And I think one of the skills that I try to teach my daughter is play in such a way that little kids want to keep playing with you. If you're playing softball and you're just a jerk the whole time, they're not going to want to keep playing with you. And I think as adults, the successful adults are the ones, I'm not just talking financial success, but just like, have a good time at being alive as an adult is, we play in such a way where we want to be, where they want to keep playing the game, where others want to keep playing with you. And so anyway, when I'm introduced to a podcast host, I've really learned to lean on what you guys teach with the green room chat, and just the buffer time between the recordings as just a great way to make a friend. And if it's just a friendship, that's fine. But I usually kind of lay a little bit of, lay a few sandbox tools out there for us to play together. I say things like, hey, if you're open to it, I'd be happy to have ongoing discussions, figure out a way we could partner together. What would be a good fit for you and your audience? This was a great conversation today, Mr. or Miss Host. What would you think would be a good way to do something more from this episode so we can add even more value to your community? And very often, if you say something along those lines, and then importantly, you shut up and let them talk, then there could be some wonderful sparks that fly, and lots of great collaborations can come from it.
Oh my God. I love tying it back to just like, hey, you have to be somebody that kids actually, that kids want to play with.
Yeah.
One of our values that we talk a lot about is kindness. And I love that that's what you're talking about. That is sort of this magic sauce, of, who's successful. I mean, we talk about it in regards to mindset, but it's like, are you having a good time, right? We talked yesterday in our mindset panel. Are you feeling joy? Like feel the feelings that you want to feel when you're successful now, because when you do, people want to be around people that are just like who doesn't want to just talk to Mark? Like he's like the most pleasant, joyful guy. And that's why he's having success, right? So I love that you gave us kind of that script of like how to ask them, do you want to do something more together? So what are some examples of the things you've done with hosts?
Oh man, this is where it gets really fun. So I'm going to just give you a few off the top of my head. And I was just trying to write before our talk about what's happened in the last 12 months or so. So I'll just give you a few, and you just stop me if you want to go dive deeper into any of these. So one person has a community, kind of a private membership group, and I've been invited to be an instructor on their site to teach finance. And so, I do courses on that site, and I have regular engagement with the members on that site. And so I just sort of pop in as a kind of an expert guest, whatever. I'll do regular kind of live webinars, office hours, CFPs. It's sort of like, you hop on as a certified financial planner, and people just want to throw weird questions at you. Like, hey, should I pay off my 0% interest credit card? Or, hey, should I, max out my 401k? All these questions, so it's just a chance for me to jump on there and add some value to his community. It's a private membership site.
And is that something that's like a marketing opportunity? You're not charging to be the expert. You just know that if you're showing up there, those are likely people that are going to want to work with you.
That's right. And the host of the show, and also he's the host of this membership site. He's happy because he's got, collaborative and valuable joint venture content that I've put out there for him. So that's one. Spoke with another wonderful woman who's really invested in real estate and teaches other, specifically women, on real estate investing. And she asked me, for some reason, to be a co-author of her book. I think she wanted mostly women to write the book, but I guess I tagged along for the ride, on that. So that was cool. But she helped me, get that third best-selling book in our bio. So that's exciting and wonderful.
That's incredible. Yeah. And I want to jump off. I don't know if this will be a separate point, but another thing like the membership site is being a guest speaker in someone's mastermind group. I've done that. I've brought speakers into our mastermind group and I've spoken to other people's mastermind groups. And with masterminds, it's interesting because they tend to be really small. Like a high-end mastermind could be 10, 12 people. So it's this itty bitty audience, but they are so warm, so qualified. The trust is like through the roof. So, you'll get clients from opportunities like that.
I want to introduce you. I'll call this person Steve because we really went the distance here. It started with an introduction from one of your wonderful team members to be a guest on his show. And I learned in the green room chat, I was on his show first in July of 2019. So it goes that far back. I had a great conversation with him. And we just sort of talked. I learned that he had a mastermind group where folks pay a sort of nominal fee to join for 90 days. Then they can be an associate of this membership group for $15,000. And then they can join as sort of their VIP level for over $100,000 to be in this mastermind group. So I was happy that he invited me to speak to his VIP group, as well as kind of the broader group. And that was something that came from our podcast, the podcast interview that he gave with me. So guys, imagine if you had someone paying to hear you speak and they were paying a part of that fee of $100,000 to hear you speak, their ears are going to be open to whatever it is you have to say. They're very much not just a warm lead off the internet, let's say, or a cold lead off the internet. They are absolutely hanging on every word you're saying. And yes, we've had a wonderful success in just the partnership with that particular joint venture. And it's continued. We actually are renewing our I sponsor some of his show and I do some other sponsorships of his events now. But it's just been a wonderful partnership with that particular person.
That's incredible. These are such great ideas. I hope everyone is taking notes and writing these down. Do you have any other joint venture collaboration ideas for us?
Well, so have you ever heard of an epic rap battle? Do you know what an epic rap battle is?
I would very much like to hear your epic rap.
Yeah. So imagine if you go on YouTube and look up epic rap battles, there's going to be maybe it's like two philosophers, or maybe it's two physicists, like maybe it's Albert Einstein versus Stephen Hawking, do an epic rap battle. And it's these two comedians that get together and have a fun, interchange with a rap rap beat going on underneath. Well, anyway, I've been invited to do an epic rap battle on stock investing and some other kind of weird financial stuff. So just weird, creative things like this. I have yet to try TikTok or something like that out. But again, whether it's a book, a mastermind group, a membership site, a rap battle on YouTube, the toys in the sandbox are plentiful if you're willing to play and to try something new. Obviously, you want to check out compliance and stuff for your industry, whatever you guys do. But you make the best of what you can, and you just say, hey, let's try it. And if it fails, let's fail early and fail often.
Yes, I love it. So everyone write this stuff down, because now you have all of these ideas, right? I'm a firm believer in, writing down your intention, writing down your goals, make a podcast guesting vision board, and you can have all of these collaboration, joint venture ideas. So now you know what you're working towards. You can set the intention that, okay, in a year of podcast guesting, I want to be speaking to somebody's high-end mastermind group. I want to be co-authoring a book with a host I meet. Because when you set that intention, again, remember what you learned about in the mindset panel, you will now start becoming who you need to become to get that result. This is incredible. So I think we've covered all of my questions. This was so valuable. So are there any other tips or anything that you want to share with our audience here? These are all entrepreneurs who are learning about how to monetize the mic. And this has been incredibly valuable. Do you have any other final words of wisdom?
Well, just make it a win-win conversation and realize that you're there at the request of the host. They have no obligation to even air your interview with them. So try to let them know how much you appreciate them for letting you on their show, and find ways after the interview is over to continually add value, send thank you notes. Someone sent me a gratitude journal for just coming on my show. And I just thought that was a really cool thoughtful gift. So just think creatively and stand out from the crowd. And you guys do a great job of helping us do that.
Thank you so much, Mark. Mark, where can everyone find you online?
Well, as long as my internet is connected, you can find me at lakegrowth.com. That's LAKEGROWTH.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here. I thought this was incredibly valuable. I know everyone's busy writing down their notes. We so appreciate it. So for everyone watching here live, make sure that you are back here in an hour and a half for our closing keynote. Margie and I will be teaching you how to turn your vision into sales and really going through the core strategies for monetizing. We'll have several examples of calls to action, so you do not want to miss it. Come back here in 90 minutes and then make sure that you apply for our day 3. This is our private training. It is an advanced training on our Monetize the Mic 3-part framework. Fill out the application at interviewconnections.com/MTM so we can review it and just make sure that it's a good fit for you. So we'll see everyone back here at 2 p.m. Eastern time today. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, everyone.